You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
Welcome everyone to Advance Rhode Island. I'm Dan McKee, the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Rhode Island. Every month we have a show talking about the things that we're working on in our office, whether it's business issues or healthcare issues and also municipal issues. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the framework that I came from. It was as a former mayor with my colleagues, my fellow colleagues, talking about municipal issues, local and also state and also federal issues that are impacting our ability to have our communities be strong, fiscally sound, and safe in terms of, and a very economically friendly environment. So thank you for joining us today. And Gary, why don't you, Gary from North Smithfield,
yes.
Newly elected,
Yes.
you know, like in the first
now.
term,
Yeah.
right? Horizon on your first term. Give us a little perspective on your first year in office as the town administrator in North Smithfield.
Well, as folks like you know, I mean, it is a learning process. I have, quite a number of years of business experience that people thought would be beneficial to have me in the seat, and I think it has helped, but there's still a lot to learn. And sitting in the chair is a lot different than being on the other side of the desk, as anyone who's been in the chairs know. So I've learned quite a bit, and but we've also been able to do some of the things that we intended when we decided to run as a group of us running together, sharing ideas together in a loosely structured arrangement for the election. The biggest thing was to try to change the tenor of the discussions in town right from the start, and we had some unfortunate debates that just as too often happens in many of our communities, that they spin into discussions that when you stand back and look at them and say, really?
Why are we spending our time on those
Yeah,
matters
why?
when we're trying to create a community where people can live and raise their families in a healthy way?
And
right?
work together.
Yes.
And we've done that. I'm proud of the way that we've been able to work together with the administration and the town council have worked together. We've got a brand new town council president, an individual, John Beauregard's our retired state policeman.
Little police there, Steve, right? We'll get to Steve's story in a second.
Who has never had any other role in local government. And he was a little hesitant to take on that role, but we encouraged him. We could see the leadership ability, and he's done a great job. And our council meetings are brief. In fact, I wasn't able to attend our last one. It's the first one that I've missed. And it was only about a half an hour long. I don't think they want me to come back for the next one. Because even when I'm there might be an hour and 15 minutes versus going on and having to extend curfews and such. So we've been able to focus, and I think we get a little bit, quite a bit more information to the council, and we're working with the school committee leadership and the superintendent of schools. We're not perfect. I mean, we've got some things some wrinkles to iron out still, but I'm proud of what we've done in that arena, and we're taking on a lot of the challenges that aren't as big as some other communities, but they're
What's your population?
still the challenge.
15,000,
It's 12,000.
12,000. So
yeah.
it's certainly one of the smaller sized communities
It
in
is.
Rhode Island.
That it
but
is.
they're all the same, Gary.
That's right. We have the same
all the
issues.
same challenge, all the
Absolutely.
same issues. So we're going to be talking about those and the different visits that I made. And we have one of the places where I had a cup of coffee, 39 cups of coffee, had a fire. We're going to talk about that. And fires seem to be in our vocabulary right now, right, Steve? Steve from Bristol. So tell us about the most patriotic community in the country is Bristol, Rhode Island, because of the 4th of July parade and many other factors. We were down there opening up the veterans facility, the veterans home. What an unbelievable facility that is. It's right in Bristol. And so tell us a little bit about, and relatively newly elected as well.
That's right.
You know, Tony is a friend of ours, who was there. Paulette was a friend of ours, but you know, new leadership is good, and we want to make sure we embrace that. When Joe and I helped put together a coalition of municipal leaders several years back, we have an open table. So tell us a little bit about what's going on in Bristol.
We're building on what was good.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it. And no, great things in Bristol. Like you said, patriotic town, very involved community, a lot of community groups. And right out of the box, I got to give a shout out to our volunteer fire department this morning. I think with the wind chills, it was below 9 degrees, and our volunteer firemen worked with the Warren Volunteer Fire Department and successfully put out a structure fire in one of our neighborhoods. So thank you to them. They did a nice job. But we've had a successful year, and you know what I heard when I was campaigning was a lot of it was about taxes. People don't mind taxes going up a little bit if they're seeing a return. When there's that pothole out front, when the trees aren't being trimmed, they're frustrated. And so this year I really focused on increasing our morale, empowering our employees. Hey, do it. If you got the idea, run it up the chain and let's see if we can do it. So we worked out of the box this year, and we were successful. We got a lot done. And what I'm really proud about is our taxes this year, we went up 15 cents, which beat our trend of 74 cents, 90 something. One year it was over $1. We kept our taxes down this year, and we're staying in our budget. So we're doing well. And I go back to my days in police work. Morale and productivity, they go.
How many years on the police
20
force?
years, a
Yes.
regular retirement.
And you're a family name, right? With your dad and others, right?
Yeah, but not in elected positions.
Yes.
So this
Yeah.
is all new to me.
Yeah.
It's been an
Okay.
experience, but yeah, it really has.
Well, join the club.
But you know, like they say, brick by brick, you know, we're going to get better. And you know, I'm looking forward to the future. I appreciate you coming to Bristol whenever I needed your office. One thing that we're really strong in is traditions in town. One of them is manufacturing, and I got to say we have a very robust carbon fiber industry. And I know you've been down.
Yes.
You've helped us with some utility issues. Your office expediting services for businesses, and we're doing well. So
Yeah.
we're on the right track. And you know, I'm
Yeah,
looking forward.
well, I've enjoyed going to all the communities, but Bristol is a great place. My wife Sue and I take the bike path from Barrington, go through Warren, we end up in Bristol.
That's right.
We do that a few times a year, and then have a dinner down there down in Bristol, or one of the other communities we would drive through. So the state is a beautiful state. Bristol's a part of that. But congratulations to both of you for making it through your first year in a way that I think was very positive. And as we share some of the things that we work on as municipal leaders, it's the day-to-day activities. I know my phone rang a lot more as a mayor for 12 years than it does as a lieutenant governor, because of a fire, because of the things you have to respond to. Sure. And my good friend here, Joe Polisena from Johnston, who I've been on his TV show several times, where you're keeping people informed. Yep. Joe, right? And you got a remarkable story going on there during the tenure you've been there, and share a little bit what's happened in the last year and the things that we should be really excited about for Johnston, and how that rolls into making the state.
First, I want to thank my brother government leaders here.
Yes.
Even though from smaller communities we'll have the same problems, no matter if you're in Providence, Pawtucket, Johnston, Jamestown, North Smithfield or Bristol, we all share the same problems. But by the way, pardon my attire.
Yeah, you're looking good. You're looking very athletic today, Joe. I don't know.
Yes, I will tell you as we're doing the show, we know it's about 10 degrees out, but I had to make some appearances at the Department of Public Works today and some outside projects. So I figured I would support I always do the
Yes. You were telling me there was a vehicle issue that you had to respond to. I think this is important to these nuts and bolts issues we deal with every day. You fixed it.
To the Lady Panthers, Johnston Girls Softball, they're the best.
Yes.
They're my favorite team. We got the Panthers, of course. But as I said, when I started off as mayor, I've been the mayor for 10 years. I was also a fireman, and retired after 21 years, and I picked up what he said right away, because I said the same thing. I'm on a regular pension, not a disability pension. I've been a registered nurse for 32 years. I've been a professor at CCRI since 1986, so I've been there a long time. I still teach the EMT program. I was there full time. I was a state senator, so I had a little bit of experience in government, but being the mayor My first day, I walked into the office. My predecessor had taken the furniture, so I had no furniture. The phone was sitting on the windowsill, and I had a $9 million deficit. So we worked real hard. You know, we
You had
had
the clock, I think. I don't know if it was still there, but
yeah,
it was
they
there
had
for a
that
while.
stupid clock.
Then you got rid of that.
No, they got rid of it. Thank
Yes.
God.
Oh, good.
'Cause,
And then you put new signs
That was
up.
going to go to landfill.
Town hall
But
looks
anyway,
beautiful.
yeah. Well, we did a lot of work. We had some problems. They had a deficit. The previous administration was able to keep out the Auditor General for a year. And as you know, when you have a deficit and you have to put a deficit reduction plan, you've got 5 years to pay it off. I only had 4, but we, meaning myself and the taxpayers, because I'm a taxpayer, we paid it off in about 3. So I'm proud to say, as I sit here, we have about a $25 million cumulative surplus that we obviously put aside for a rainy day. This is the second year in a row with no tax increase. We have about $1.4 billion in new development. When I first took over, as I said, it was so stagnant you could breed mosquitoes. Nobody wanted to come into the town. We had a zoning board and planning board that didn't really want any business. Thank God, and I'm somewhat of not a big religious person, but there is a God. We removed them. I appoint planning, council appoints zoning. We removed the naysayers, and we've had a success story. I mean, we as I said, we're really doing well. We got the Citizens Bank project, which is a $300 million project coming to Johnston. We just extended the sewer and water line, municipal sewer and water line on Route 6. There's 156 acres of commercial developable property. The sewer line's been put in. The water line's going to start in the spring, and it'll be done by hopefully the summer. And we already have people that are looking to put a hotel and other businesses. So we're really looking forward to developing that. That's our next mega development area. And I know sometimes people say, oh, all of these businesses and the traffic, if you have no traffic on your road, you have higher taxes. You need businesses to stabilize your taxes. And
Yeah,
that's
that's-
why we're able to have no tax increase. And I don't want to go off on a limb, because sometimes it'll get cut off, but I'm looking hopefully to hold the line on taxes for next year.
Yeah.
Because we're really, we fixed our pension issue. We had a $110 million unfunded pension liability. We put an FIP in place. I got 5 union contracts that are all settled. The police and fire got the 5-year contracts because of the pensions was in critical status. The 1491, 1491A settled, and 808 settled. So we have contracts in place. We've switched our retirees from retiree Blue Cross to Medicare. We started, you and I
Yes.
started, and Joe Allman started the RIMIC, which we obviously
Major savings
bulk buy
on the health
and
insurance.
we got to get these guys maybe
Yes,
involved
at least
too.
let them hear about it a
Yeah,
little bit. But
we
yeah,
saved a
that's
lot of
big
money on
savings.
health care. We were paying $78 per person, and then when we threatened to leave, a month,
Yes.
we were threatened to leave, Blue Cross dramatically dropped it down to $28. Wow.
Yeah, that was a good, just a little segue
Yeah.
as you bring that up, because we were meeting at, at different town halls, and Cumberland had the town hall meeting when we were finalizing the issues with Blue Cross, and so what happened was, and it wasn't staged, but all of a sudden I was sitting there with Joe Alman, I kind of count population. Today we probably got 70,000 people, 65, 70,000 people sitting at the table right now. So we said, we'd like to get the rate that Providence getting, because they have 170,000 people. I only got 33,000. But next thing you know, Joe walked in, Joe Polisena, and then Mail and Body, and I said, we're up to about 180,000 right now. I think they'll keep them coming. I think one of the other mayors stepped in, and all of a sudden I said, look, we're up to 300,000 people. Can we have that rate? And then we ended up getting that rate. But that's the value of kind of pooling populations, and Joe was right at the beginning of that, and it was really, really important to us, and continues to be important to us, right, Joe?
Absolutely. There's a savings, and that's how you're able to stabilize your taxes and put your money into infrastructure programs. And I'm sure you guys, Bristol, North Smithfield, you guys need the roads fixed, you need street lights, you need the potholes repaired, and as well as your own buildings.
So we're going to talk about that a little bit at the end of the story, but you can see with Joe, I always said, if you have time in office, you start filling the pipeline with some really good concrete ideas. Mm-hmm. And then when we share those ideas across community lines, they even get stronger. Mm-hmm. And Joe's example is something that he's been able to fill that pipeline, so there's things coming out. I always felt as though fill the pipeline so that when the next person comes in, there's stuff, things that are positive coming out for your community, and you'll be filling that pipeline over periods of time. So one of the things I'd like to kind of talk about, and I get one of the kind of the missions of our office as Lieutenant Governor, and the thing that attracted to me as being in business for many, many years, was to be an advocate for small businesses in our communities. And I'm not sure that we did a real great job in Cumberland. We tried to do a very good job, but I think that we can do a lot better. We continue to get very low grades on small business friendliness in the state. I can tell you, as one of the segues, I brought in a company called Thumbtack out of California, and they paid their way, and we had meetings with different municipal leaders and businesses about why are we getting F in business friendliness. And so they had a whole metric there, and we had some progress. It's not big progress, but we went from an F now to a D+ on that rating. And I kind of celebrate that to a certain degree. I was told that, that's the difference between going to summer school and not going to summer school, right? So between the, getting the 3 credits and not getting the 3 credits, but we got a long way to go. But I know good things are happening in the communities. I can tell you, like in North Smithfield, we've been, we've had the cup of coffee when we went on the 39 cups of coffee, a coffee and cream. We've been to one of the farms that we visited there was Wright's Dairy Farm. What a spectacular story that's going on there with an expansion that's happening there in your community. And one of the communities that we went to was National Market Company, that actually did these banners. We engaged them to do these banners for us that are the backside of our stage. So they're a national company that's doing all things for CVS. So you've got some really good things going on. But tell us a little bit about the business activity that's going on in your town and how you're trying to make it business friendly, and I'll ask everybody to do the same thing, and some of the things that you might be looking forward to as well.
Well, from just a customer service perspective, and I think that's too often what sometimes people on the government side forget, is that we are serving customers. Trying to make the whatever rule, regulation, law that we put in place reflect what people actually do is what I keep trying to advocate to folks. There are things that we need to change and rules that we need to upgrade, but as we do it, it's important to look at, okay, does it match what people are really doing? Because I was talking with folks this morning about a policeman from Millville, actually, who, as a student at URI, as a civil engineer, I was schooled that you establish speed limits at a rate that is at or below what 85% of the traffic travels at, such that when you're driving your car, you don't really have to focus on the speedometer. You focus on the road around you and
it's a good idea.
It's comfortable,
and not your cell phone.
Yeah, well, true, but so that you do what's intuitive, and it happens to comply with the law. That's when we get real good compliance and productivity. So that's one of the things that I've been trying to do, and an example I think on a state basis that we in serving the customer. I mean, whether we agree or disagree with the whole Working Families Initiative to establish the mandatory paid sick time, the DLT has had 9 months to be able, will have about 9 months to affect the regulation, is what I'm sensing through the process. The businesses across the state are going to get 3 months to affect it. And they're going to need the resources of hundreds of consultants to be able to redraft all of their policies and handbooks. And we haven't given enough consideration to the customer that actually has to put it in place. So I try to look at things that way as I do things in North Smithfield. And Governor, as you know, with my work with the Small Business Economic Summit, I've had a hand in regulatory initiatives for a decade now. And I think keeping things simple is really, and considering that customer. Bring them with us. Don't try to force them to do things. Try to encourage them to do things is the way I like to look at them. So we're doing that in what we try to put forward in the way of new initiatives in town, just simplify as much as possible. We're also trying to generate new opportunity. You're right, we've got great industries like Banneker and National Marker in town, and Beck Industries that moved in from, I think, Johnston, actually.
Don't be saying that too loudly.
But
there's always payback that comes.
We all, what goes around comes around, right? But on the other hand, they're doing some amazing things. And we need more of that, not just in North Smithfield, but throughout the state. And one of the things that we've tried to do is create, we are moving forward, working with Rhode Island DOT and hopefully soon federal DOT to improve access to what we have. You talk about the Route 6 circumstance. We've got 150 acres of already zoned industrial lands that with all the utilities that one could want, that has not moved over the last 20 years.
I think that's something that's really important that we put out there, because we need to make sure we grow the base of the
everybody.
business community.
Yeah,
But in
because-
North Smithfield, for a small, relatively small community, and you just did the construction up there in Park Square area, that seemed to be a
Dowling
very,
Village is doing
a
quite
very
well.
beneficial
Yeah. We
to
got more
the
coming.
tax base and more coming. That's a reflection of the strength of the community, Gary, and on these items that kind of impact small businesses in particular. Whether it's the sick pay, I've taken a position. Look, if you're going to put an additional cost onto business, we need to make sure that we provide corresponding relief to them, and maybe the time sensitivity is important. But also just generally look at, if you're going to add $20,000-$30,000 of expense to a company, whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing to do, this has been my position, then provide them $20,000-$30,000 of corresponding relief or opportunity.
Yeah.
Tell us a little thing that's going on
Oh,
in
God.
Bristol, because I know you've got a lot of things going
I
on
could
there.
take
I've
up
done
an
the
hour.
manufacturing tour. I know you could, and that's good though, right? I mean, you got
is
the
a good
boating
thing.
industry that you're
That's right.
supporting down there. You got,
First-
let me just tell you quickly the places that I have visited in Bristol. Right, we were on the Harbor Master going out on our farm tour. Out to the oyster farms that are off of the out of the Bristol Bay area. We've certainly have been at different farms there, and we had Susan and I, after one of our bike path fits, we came over to Bristol, and we had right at the was it the Bristol Oyster Bar? Bristol
Bar,
Yeah,
yeah.
the Oyster Bar. Yeah, and it was very
Narragansett
good. We
Bay
had it
oysters.
right on the
Yeah.
deck there. So
Yeah, the
tell
oysters
us
are back.
tell us some stuff that's happening down
well,
in Bristol.
Bristol is one of Rhode Island's original ports, so I like to often say the port of Bristol. We understand that that's an integral part of our economy. It's a working waterfront. We have tourism there. We have commercial shell fishermen that we are definitely trying to make sure that they have their space and they can continue their livelihood. One of the things I'm proud of this year is we were able to work with the town of Portsmouth and our ferry service provider that provides transportation, a lifeline to Prudence Island. We're able to come up with an agreement where we all paid a third for the repairs that were necessary to the Prudence Island ferry dock. So that was a huge success last winter that we accomplished. But what we do is we listen to our businesses, but we know they're busy. So we try not to interfere too much. Our merchants are a big part of our economy. So we do what we're best at. That's making sure we're working with Rhode Island DOT, getting that street swept once a month, which is something new. My DPW director's done an outstanding job with the superintendent at DOT, and we're getting the streets swept. We're getting handrails put in. We got our visitor center open again on Saturdays when the merchants ask for that. So what we're good at, that's what we're going to do. I often hear when I do talk to businesses that, well, why is the focus always on bringing businesses in? How about us? We've been here right along. You're forgetting us. Well, I can't take credit for this, but the town of Bristol thought ahead, and there's actually a tax stabilization plan. And recently somebody just came before our town council and was approved for that. So that he's going to add onto an existing footprint of a building. He's going to provide jobs. He's going to prove that he's going to provide a certain percentage of new jobs. And his tax on that new piece of property will phase in.
So you're doing that for existing businesses?
We're doing that for existing business, and it's nice to get that message out. I have another manufacturer, 75 employees, and I was with him recently. I explained it to him. He said, "Oh, I had no idea we offered that." And I am interested in growing. So
yeah, those are good ideas that we want to be shared, because
Yeah.
we certainly want to build that around the small business friendliness around the state. So
Look, Lieutenant Governor, there's always room in this. That's why I'm looking at this down the road. What can we do next? The other thing I hear from them is the tangible tax, the inventory tax that they pay. For some of our smaller businesses, they spend more time taking their inventory, getting the reporting done. Then they don't want to carry certain products. If it's an auto mechanic, they don't want to carry certain radiator belts because they don't sell often enough. And this is they say it's ridiculous. We understand we have to pay our fair share, but can you incorporate it with the commercial property rate or something like that? So these are things that we still have a lot of great ideas out there that we need to get to.
yeah, those are all really important. And I know that I think it was Green Eggs that I ended up having my cup of coffee
yeah.
at. Were very good.
One-
Not that all the restaurants down in Bristol are
Yeah.
very good, but I particularly enjoyed the Green Eggs. And revisit all those establishments.
We have in Rhode Island great museums, great cultural places to go and visit. This is what we're hearing too in Bristol, is that people like to go out, they like to eat, and they like to go see an attraction. That's what the theme is now. And our food and beverage proceeds in the last 3 or 4 years are increasing every year. So we're doing well in that category. And those are jobs, that's property values, it provides for a vibrant community. Our downtown area sometimes, I'd like to go down there with my family just to spend a little time when things are quiet. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
you know,
so
So
that's
it is.
great.
So
So yeah, that's one of the, I think, we're staying in touch with all the municipalities, right? You know, when you walk into my office, Joe, right, you know that we got every insignia for every community, all 39. Our theme has been 39, visiting all 39. Everybody's important. Every job's important. Every business is important. And so when we're comparing notes, those are really good ideas because we're out visiting businesses. We were in Newport today, actually had a business that has established themselves, a construction company, KT Mall Construction, which is one of the good things that Joe, we share is the owners live in Cumberland, and now they're in business in your community. And we've been to a number of different places. We've been at the Brewed Awakening, right, for our cup of coffee. You've been there with me. Citizens Bank. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about, let's spend a little time about the things that are going on. I mean, you got a long list, but start with the small businesses, and then let's end with how important that Citizen Bank construction, and you know how much I've supported that publicly.
Absolutely. I just want to back up a little bit, and I think my colleagues in government will feel the same way. When you talk about small business, there's a lot of regulations. I have to tell you, thank God for Janet Coit and Terry Gray, because DEM is the worst, I'm going to say it. But they keep them under control because what they do, they make decisions that is not based on law, and you'll say, well, why did you make that decision? Because we can. That happens in China. So, and the DOT director we have, I think the governor hit the lottery with him. Alviti is great, and they help us. But a lot of people with the regulations from DEM, from this, from that, so that's very cumbersome on a lot of the businesses that want to open up.
Joe, let me share a little bit. I can echo that because the people who know me they call me.
Sure,
right? So
sure.
we get business calls, and we invite anybody to call our office and talk. But the people who actually know me personally know that they can talk to me, and then we're kind of doing these one-ups.
Right.
Whether it's a letter of good standing, for instance, which has been reduced now from significant time down to maybe 20, 21 days. But somebody needed a certificate of standing because their business, their charter was being revoked. So we got in there and we worked on that. So it's not good that we have to do these one-ups. We will continue to do that. But an overall general atmosphere like Gary's talked about and Steve's talked about in terms of just general customer service, these businesses are important to us.
They need one-stop shopping. In Johnston, you want to open up a business, you're told to do A, B, C, D, and you're done. But unfortunately, if you need a curb cut, you got to go to the state. Thank God, though, like I said, Director Alviti is very open-minded and responds very promptly to businesses that obviously want to come into the state or into my community or the other community leaders that are here. But we see a lot of problems with the DEM, and it was just they were accustomed to doing things their way, and it's not based on law or regulations. It's because maybe they want to put a notch in their belt. Maybe some of them. They used to get their lunch money stolen when they were kids, and now they're tough. I don't know. But as I said, several times I had to have the director and assistant director intervene because businesses will leave. They're not going to wait. They'll go right up the road to Massachusetts or Connecticut. So I think if we can try to streamline our regulations, whether it's obviously with the DEM, the DOT, any other state agency, I think you'll see businesses come in. This is a great state. We're all here because we love the state. You're the lieutenant governor. You want to do good for the state. These gentlemen want to do good for their communities. We're all here because we love the state, but they have to help us here. And if I can just bring back one thing, I think you gentlemen were in charge. But in 2010, we had a governor who wanted to balance the state budget on the backs of the cities and towns, and that was Mr. Don O.K. Kacheri. And what he did was he took our general revenue sharing away from us, if you remember that, because you were the mayor. And we really had a tough time adjusting to that, but we did. And we did it without, in some instances, raising the taxes way too high. But we lost $5 million. Province lost $78 million. That was 10 years ago, and you keep compounding that. So we had to make a lot of adjustments. I did by losing 35 people through attrition. A couple of people got fired, but mostly through attrition. So you have to adjust. And the general revenue sharing, we rely on that. That's why a lot of times, I don't know, when you gentlemen have to have your budgets in, we try to wait till the last minute because we don't know what the state's going to do when it comes to state aid. Because if you're depending on X amount of dollars from the state, they have a shortfall, you pass your budget, and they cut you, you've already got a deficit. That's why we wait. Some people say, well, the charter says. I know what the charter says, but you have to be realistic.
I'm being attacked on that issue right now, as a matter of fact.
But
We did
you know what,
wait. We had to wait.
All you got to say is, you're going to wait for this. We rely on the state, and the state's hitting some
and
tough
Joe,
times.
you're absolutely right in terms of the fact that you know, having a strong voice with the municipalities and
Absolutely.
sharing that. No one knows the territory better than the people who are on the ground.
The mayors,
working
the
this
town
every day. I mean, we're
administrators, and the
talking
town
about the
managers.
fire, we're talking about truck issues,
Sure.
we're talking about everything you could imagine. But yeah, we were a little bit of the punching bag.
Big time.
Yes, and in a way that was very problematic years ago, and hopefully we're seeing some shift in that in terms of the way that, like you say, DEM is treating local businesses
they've been
and these
great.
type of things. So,
But do you remember, Governor, just
but we've only gone from an F to a D plus. But as I remember your story in finances, mine was similar. I got 8 bond grade upgrades when I was from a junk bond when I was a mayor for 12 years. But it happens one step at a time. But
But
yeah.
you remember too, Governor, when Mr. Kachiri cut all the general revenue sharing and took away the car tax, by the way, if you remember that, he blamed us. We have to do
Yeah,
more.
we didn't like hearing that we had a, you know,
was
everybody
our
can
fault.
tighten their belts. Everybody had a different story.
But they balanced the state budget on the back.
But tell us something. You got stuff that's
Sure.
going on.
Yeah,
Tell us
real
the
quick,
stuff
yeah.
that's going on because that's past. Now we.
I like to reminisce, you know?
I know. You are-
Like
you're
my
the
grandmother
best.
used to say in broken English, the truth isn't fun.
Yeah, but you
It's-
got really
yeah,
good things going
we've been,
on
we were
right now,
fortunate. I
Joe.
mean, we
Very
you know, we
fortunate.
have, as I said, we got Citizens Bank coming in. We have.
And then how many jobs is that?
Well,
Because
I mean,
you're
it's-
known like
it's-
as the labor mayor, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you got some real employment there
we
that's
have
happening,
there's
right?
probably almost
The-
500 people working in the construction industry. So.
And the cranes in the sky that we're always hearing about, we might be looking in the wrong skyline sometimes.
Correct.
But let's look where actually this stuff is these things are happening, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of construction people working in my community. I've been given a nickname, and I wear it with a badge of honor, as the trades union mayor, because I want to see people, because they're men and women in Johnston, a lot of them are involved in the trades union. They're working people. We have a lot of construction going on. We have, obviously, they just finished a building, the old FM Global, which is owned by Northwoods. They spent over $100 million, obviously regenerating that place, if you will, rejuvenating it, making it nice again. We have Dussault Industries, who came from Providence. We have a couple of insurance companies that have come in there. We have my favorite organization, AAA, the American Arbitration Association. I heard they just moved to Johnston, and I welcome them. I welcome them. But as I said, we've got a lot of businesses coming in. I have a gentleman who's from New Jersey, was at my Christmas party, which you were there, and I hooked him up with the governor. He wants to come in and spend about $15 to $18 million, hire between 50 and 65 Rhode Islanders, good paying jobs, and he wants to, he's going to recycle old light bulbs and old solar panels. And he also produces solar panels. So, which I'm trying to find him a spot. I do have him a location now. He's negotiating.
Well, nobody works harder than you. I can remember when the arcade closed down 6, 7, 8 years ago. Who's the one person that was calling all the small businesses and said, "Come on, I think we got a little
We
home
got a
for
few
you."
to come in,
So,
yeah.
I give you credit, Joe, for the
I
things
think
that are
my
going on.
colleagues would agree. The small businesses, it's nice to have the big business like the
Yes.
FM Global
Yes.
and Citizens, but the small businesses, I think, are the economic engine that drive our economy every single day. And I know you mentioned the businesses say, well, what about us or new businesses? And I tell people that, they say the same thing to me, but I tell them, listen, when a new business comes in, your business feeds off it, which is true. You know, if it's a restaurant, a new business like Citizens coming in, people are going to use the restaurants. They're going to use the gas station. They're going to use, to whatever, the variety stores.
Well, I love, and I'll just end with the Citizen story there,
Sure.
right? Because Mike, is it Canepa?
Mike Canepa, yeah,
yes, I
great
mean,
guy.
a good leading advocate for Citizens, but
Sure.
also Johnston, and then the greater Rhode Island area in terms of jobs. But construction jobs alone, you probably got 300-400 people that have worked that project, right?
More than that.
More than that.
Almost 500 people.
500
when you look at like I said, the construction workers, the builders, the people doing the road, extending the sewer line, the water line, the new ramps on 295 coming off 295.
So that construction time frame is real money
Sure.
and real jobs to our economy.
Sure.
And then you're going to have a couple. Is almost on that square footage? There's 1,000 or more jobs that are going to be physically there.
At Citizen?
On the sites, 2,000. What is it? 2,000.
At Citizen,
Yes.
there'll be about 2,800 to 3,000
Yes.
positions. But just let me say that
Yeah.
they have 3 shifts, so they're not all going to be going there at
Yes.
once. Don't get nervous, people.
Yes.
And also,
But no, we celebrate that,
Yeah,
right? I
absolutely.
mean, you got to manage that, but we celebrate
they
that.
were going to
big
move, by the
time.
way. They had the option of leaving the state.
Yes.
And when I sat down with them, we kind of got them to say. And I got to say, Governor Raimondo did help because she interjected her help with the ramps and everything. And I know you helped. I asked you for
Yes.
help, and I said, Governor, please help me. And you did.
And so when I talked to Mike and we did the tour when they were
Yep.
doing the original blasting there, I just said, look, it's great. We love the fact that you're here, but how are you going to impact small businesses? How are you going to get money on the street for the small businesses? How are you going to actually interact with the local small businesses that are in the greater Johnston area? And they are going to do some of those things and bring in that on campus, cleaners. It's a really good story that we need to focus on in terms and duplicate that.
One more thing too, if I can add, is they've also immersed themselves in our community. They've obviously sponsored Little League teams, baseball
Yes.
teams, football teams, but also they're going to build a baseball field, a soccer field, a beach volleyball court, walking trails that the residents of Johnston can use at any time, which I think is fabulous. And also, we have big venues in Johnston when it comes to the baseball banquets, the basketball banquets, 500, 600, 700, 800 people. Well, all of these big venues have closed down, including the West Valley Inn. Now we're going to be able to use I called it a cafeteria, but I got corrected, the dining room at Citizens Bank. So they've been really good.
Yes.
And quite frankly, with the permit fees
Yeah.
we just charged them, I just bought 2 brand new fire trucks at $990,000 and didn't cost the taxpayers a dime from the permit fees and stuff.
Yes.
So
on
we've done
Advanced
well.
Rhode Island, the TV show, I've talked to Mike about when they actually open up. We've taken every third show or fourth show
Yep.
out in the public with a live audience.
Sure.
And we're going to do that there with your
Great.
small business community and really highlight
Excellent.
one that gets all nice, that nice shiny product that there's is right on 295. A big deal for Rhode Island. Thank you for making sure that happened, Joe.
Thanks for your help.
Yeah. So now I'd like to shift a little bit into infrastructure. We talked about the infrastructure and the ramps and those type of things. Gary, you've been an advocate for infrastructure for quite some time, and let's talk about what that means to our communities in terms of facilities or in terms of roadways and that type of thing.
Well, I mean, every one of us has a school's challenge.
Absolutely. Yes.
That our high school, like so many, Cumberland's, Lincoln's, Johnston's
Yep.
probably built in the 50s and 60s because of the baby boom, and they're all 50, 60 years old now, which means they have 50-year-old windows that no longer work, just like our homes. That
Yeah.
They age, they deteriorate, and we've been fortunate to be able to keep up with things like heating systems and roofs and such. But there's major changes in the way that education is delivered today. So we're all challenged to be able to figure out a way to be able to eat that elephant one bite at a time. And it's a good example. I think the education commissioner, the treasurer are advocating for an investment plan in education that we've talked a bit about in the league, and certainly some concerns. I'm not saying that I think we've got all the answers, but I'm just happy to see it happening. And when you look at the reality that the engineering report that was identified what $2 billion in need, and some good people are looking at it saying, well, we can get a half a billion on the table. We've still got to figure out a way to get that other $1.5 billion, and at the same time that we keep fixing our roads, and then which of us doesn't have a water or a sewer infrastructure need? That again, we've got in those systems, we've got water lines and water systems that are 1920 vintage. They're 100 years old. Sure. And we were fortunate to have a state that invested so much money, maybe a country that invested so much money in that kind of infrastructure back at the turn of the last century. And the Scituate Reservoir, the investment that was made there, can you imagine the debates that must have gone on with that in terms of flooding this area? But look at the return it's given. And those 50 and 100-year decisions that we need to make as a state, and be ready to put funding plans together. Are we going to get them done today? No, but we have to have the leadership to say we've got to do this. We absolutely have to do this. And so it's water, it's schools, it's highways. Certainly DOT and the government are working on bridges. Do I like every one of the solutions? No, but you know what? None of us is going to like every solution, and the things just keep getting older. As we replaced a pipe recently that leaked, and I mean it's a 1950s installation. It was a 2-inch pipe that was pretty much down to the diameter of my finger, because of the corrosion inside the
Oh,
pipe.
yeah.
And I mean, these things don't stop.
Asbestos.
Every day.
A lot of stories that we all
Oh, yeah,
shared,
asbestos
right?
pipe, I'm sure.
On the school
Oh,
issue,
no, it
we
was
got
galvanized
to be
iron.
all in on great public schools. I mean, I've been
have to.
advocating that for years. And
Absolutely
so part of it is the facility issue. I would like to make sure that they do an assessment of the number of classrooms and the number of seats that are being used, because as you say, it was a baby boom, and we have probably more classrooms, more seats than you need, so hopefully we're not repairing those classrooms and we're concentrating on the classrooms that the kids are in. But yeah, we got to go all in on the schools. And maybe once we'll see Washington, where on the two sides of the aisle actually agree on an infrastructure strategy. I know that our communities, when I was mayor, we did several hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars of water improvements in our town when Congressman Kennedy was there, and we were able to get federal support with state support, with local support. We cleaned all those pipes in Cumberland that were causing the most problematic. And you're right, there was very little in an 8-inch pipe,
You
or
can
maybe about
clean
2 or
them and
3
reline
inches
them.
that we had to be clear out. And so there's a number of things that need to be done. And hopefully we become that state that figures out how to put the resources in that
Exactly.
direction, because our communities only get better as our schools gets better and our infrastructure gets better. You guys have got some really interesting things going on. I often say that, you know, your recreation director down there, Walter Burke,
Walter,
is like the king of grants for infrastructure on you know, recreation and open space stuff. And he's given us a tour when I was down there recently. And we share the fact that Walter's a Cumberland resident, right? So we kind of like share that talent. But you tell us a little bit of what's happening in that area, because it's significant, but also tell us some of the other things that are going on infrastructure-wise, and then we'll talk about some of the needs that you got down there, Steve.
Certainly, we try to take care of take advantage of as many grants that we can, and our recreation department certainly has done that. Not only has it helped our recreational facilities, but it's also helped the water quality, as I'm sure Walter told you all about it. You know, we didn't have any beach closures.
Yeah,
this
tell
year.
us a little bit about that,
Yeah,
because
what our Parks Director did with Janet Coy and
Oh, yeah,
DEM.
sure.
there you go,
the
cooperation there with
She-
DEM.
she's great, Jan.
Yes.
Yeah,
She is.
we had a large parking lot for our beach complex. Our beach is also our headquarters to our parks program, where we had over 400 of our youth children there this summer. Really
Yes.
great, top-notch program. Provide breakfast and lunch. We had a sprawling parking lot. Well, obviously, where does that rainwater go? It goes right into the Narragansett Bay. It goes through where the goose droppings are. And we had a real serious problem there for years. But with this new system that they have in there, with some rain gardens and natural cleansing with wildflowers and so forth, it really reduced that to it.
It was really a great visit to have. I think
Yeah.
you should host one of our coalition meetings shortly down there in that center, because it was quite a nice facility.
Wait till the summer.
Right to the summer, yes.
I don't usually have to talk about it much because Walter does all the time.
I know
I'm
that.
so proud of that.
I know that,
and
but
rightfully so.
rumor is that he may be retiring
Yes.
shortly or
Yeah,
on the
yes.
near
It'll be a
horizon.
loss to the community.
Yes.
no doubt.
It's a great example, though, of how the green initiatives and cooperation gets things done. Gets the right things done. It can happen. I mean, I've been very fortunate in my work with DEM over the years to find them to be an understanding partner, frankly, Mayor. I mean,
You're very lucky.
Yes.
Well, but I think sometimes what we all have to do is try to figure out what we're each trying to accomplish. And I like to look at that from whether it's the town and one of its residents. If we look at each other's needs and try to help each other meet those needs, we get there. We get there together.
But let me ask you a question.
And I'm not being critical. I mean, it's hard.
But let me ask you a question. When something happens, you say, well, this is not in the statute or the regulations. Why did you do it? Because I can. Now, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Some of
that
that goes
that
on.
shouldn't
Come
happen
on.
in any agency.
And I
Come
can
on.
tell you
Shouldn't
that
happen
as
in
a
any
mayor,
agency.
we ran into those type of things as well. But I think that there is a
With the
change
leadership,
of pace.
there's a change in the leadership.
Significantly in terms of having that penetrate down
With Janet
through the.
Janet Coit and Terry Gray.
Yes.
Okay, and some of the obviously people at the lower end, they're starting to see, and I think this governor is pushing, as well as yourself, Governor. You're pushing them, saying, "Hey, we need businesses, and time is money." So it has changed, but it was bad at one time. I have to tell you,
yeah.
it was bad.
What I'm seeing is you have to have an imagination in government. You can't be afraid of. You have to get out of the box at times. And another success story in Bristol relating to infrastructure was negotiations with Roger Williams University. we had a serious sewer issue where we had a bottleneck. We went from an 8-inch pipe from the 1950s or prior to a 12-inch where we had sewers backing up. At the same time, we knew Roger Williams had a need to expand dormitories on campus to get the students back on campus. Not to increase the size of the university, but just to get the kids back on the campus. We couldn't do it. We had a problem with our sewer main, so we negotiated with them. They're paying a third of the project. So to get that private money in our public, and it's going to benefit the neighborhoods, it's going to benefit our sewer use fee, because if not, we were on our own to do it.
And those
and
are
eventually, it was going to have to be
and
done
those
anyway.
are, Steve, those are great stories to be sharing, especially amongst the municipal leaders who I happen to feel as though are really leading. They're great leaders in the state, and with the you know the downturn that we've went through, that Great Recession, and building off of that. But when we hear stories like that, that only prompts us to say, well, how would that work in my community? Right? How would I do that in my community? And Joe's done some things, but you've got some infrastructure going on. You talked about the athletics. You just opened up a new sports complex. You've got some fire stations being built. You got some stuff going on. Tell us a little bit, even the landfill which you host.
Obviously,
things going on. So.
To Bristol and North Smithfield, you're welcome. We take your trash. Obviously,
indeed, thank you.
No problem. But we have the landfill, and you know, we had an issue with odors, and what I did was I filed suit against Resource Recovery a few years back, as well as Broad Rock Energy, and we settled out of court. And we settled for actually $3 million from Resource, $3 million from Broad Rock. I also got an extra $2 million from Resource Recovery to work something out with Broad Rock. And what I did with the money was, I didn't pay it over 15 years. I was able to build a high school football field that was built by the company that built Patriot Stadium. I was also
did our field in Cumberland too.
Yes,
did your
that's correct.
We referred them over.
That's right, Governor. You
no referral fee. They just gave you a good price, right?
That's right. They could have. I was going to build Cumberland, but I couldn't. So we did that. We needed a handicap accessible ramp in Town Hall. We put that in with an elevator. We used the money for that. I needed a brand new ladder truck for the fire department. We bought that. And then with the other money, with the remaining monies, we built a new indoor sports complex, 26,000 square feet, because to me, the most important thing is obviously our youth. You know, as politicians, we all talk about the adults because we want their vote, but I'm concerned with the.
You got the softball uniform on for the Panthers, but also tell us about the soccer field where you had us go over and Mayor Lombardi pulled the hamstring, I think.
And I got yelled at. And how we built a soccer field. We built 2 professional-sized soccer fields. Is I had businesses from the town come in, and actually businessmen and women come in, and actually donated the time and the materials. So we got that done for free. So because it's a big sports community.
And we gave a shout out to the recreation director of Bristol. Your recreation, Danny, is phenomenal there as well, right? He had a lot to do with that.
Just one thing on what the gentleman from North Smithfield said about the schools. He's 1,000% right. And if it works in Washington, and I'm not taking sides whether it's Trump or the Democrat, they have to get together. Now, here's what I'd like to see. You know, if they come in and say, okay, we're going to pass $1 trillion package, so we need X amount of money in Rhode Island, we should focus that on our schools. Now, if I'm going to get a school or 2 built in Johnston, right, from the federal government, then I can focus my other resources on infrastructure with the water lines, the sewer lines, the streets.
Right.
You just can't do it all at once because there's just not enough money there. So I'd like to see them come in and build some schools for us. I mean, that's what they need to do. Listen, our children are the most important, precious resource we have. You have to have an environment that they can learn in. Right now, you know, one of my schools is 90 years old. I mean, even, you know, my high school, we were the first charter class to go to the high school. I started in '69. I mean, that's, you know, you're almost 50 years old.
Yes.
But, you know, there's nothing wrong with an old building if it's maintained. If
Correct.
It's upgraded and maintained. Some of our finer universities, the oldest historical building is the most prominent. So, you know, the problem is we didn't do a very good job over there as maintaining what
Our
we
predecessors.
had and building on what we had.
Correct.
But I think that's the
true.
next horizon,
Yeah.
and again, this is great that the 3 of you are here today, and we'll have 3 more mayors or municipal leaders on to tell their stories. But what you're doing is similar to what Lincoln has done with its funds that it's getting from Trin River, and it's put those monies into a capital improvement line. In terms of the schools, Pawtucket's doing an unbelievable job right now with retrofitting some of its really high character buildings that, you know, that have the bones and the framework to accept that. So there's some things that we can do to makes a lot of sense.
And something that he said, something you said earlier, excuse me, you made a good point. You know, you raise your taxes like 20 cents, 30 cents. And people don't, listen, no one wants a tax increase, but if you have to raise your taxes and people can see tangible results.
It's about value.
Exactly.
You need
they
to
don't
deliver
mind. It's
value.
their community.
Exactly.
They don't, I assume, I mean, no one wants to pay more taxes, let's be honest. None of us here sitting at the table do, but if you have to raise the taxes because you have to build a school, you have to build a fire station, listen, they don't mind because they're getting something out of it.
Right.
It's their town, it's their city, it's their community.
I'm sorry, from what I hear, people don't like radical changes.
Absolutely.
Our residents, they don't like radical
Of course.
changes. They like safety, they like to know what's coming, and they want a safe community. They want top-notch schools, and they want things to be well-maintained. But they're not looking for pie-in-the-sky things here. They're looking for us to do the basics.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Sure.
And you know, we just talked a little bit about the federal infrastructure strategies, and my hope, and I think we all share, that they actually can figure out how to make this happen, so that you know, Rhode Island benefits as well as any other state. But there was a time when dollars were coming in and invested well, the people will appreciate that. Invested in a way that you don't get value is another story, Gary.
But Governor, you've heard me say this before. We send billions and billions of dollars to other countries that people want to kill us, and we don't take care of people in this country. What's wrong with Washington? Both, by the way, both Democrats and Republicans. We should be getting all of the money into Rhode Island. Rhode Island would be a good idea.
As much as we can.
As much as we can into our 50 states. And if there's any money left over, after we take care of people that are on the street, living on the street, people that don't have homes, our infrastructure, if there's any money left over, then you send it out. But we're sending billions and trillions of dollars to other countries. Those people want to kill us, they hate us, and we're still sending them money. I don't understand it.
Well, hopefully they get their, you know, their act together from both sides of the aisle here, because what happens is, you know, all we're doing is shifting, in my opinion, a very extreme right strategy, and now the extreme left wants to go in there, and then we're just going to go tit for tat, right? I mean, just going to get, you know, we're just going to be like, oh, it's my turn. It's,
one step forward, one step back.
When is it the people who live in the middle, and either side of the middle, when is it their turn? And that's what I think we're
like the
talking about
moderate
here.
John Kennedy Democrats.
Yes.
I mean, where you took care of those who couldn't help themselves, and you built this country to be such a great country.
I, for one, would like to see us, you know, restore that way, because I think that otherwise you're just going to have these extremes getting more extreme, and the ideas are going to become more difficult to handle.
Our coalition of mayors, managers, and town administrators consists of Democrats and Republicans. There's no party label. We're all
Independents.
And independents too. And independents too.
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
Independents.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yes.
No, because we all get together. Because, as I said before, we all work together. Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, whether you're a mayor, a town administrator, town manager, or even a council president, we all work together.
So we got a few minutes left, but I know one of the things that we talked about was just the unusual circumstances that the new tax law would have on communities, and there was an article in the Providence Journal today that talked about a rush to pay real estate taxes because of the caps that are being put in. And are you experiencing anything like that, Gary, at the moment?
We're in the final stages of completing the documentation for our audit, and so finance has been focused on that. I haven't learned of any crush to pay bills at this point.
Well, maybe maybe that's a reflection. You don't have a lot of home. You're taxed so well in North Smithfield that you don't have these homes that are that might go.
Well, that's
that threshold.
probably that probably is a factor. I mean, we're a more solid middle community.
Well, I think you're going to
so
find that, right? I think you're going to find with the tax rates and also values differ from community to community, and so some are going to be in a space where they're going to have that, and others aren't.
Right.
But
It's
see,
also
down in
income-based,
Bristol, are you experienced those type of things?
In fact, where my office sits 4 times a year, what I experience, that's when the tax bills are due, that's when my office gets busy.
Yes, I
And
know
that's
exactly where you are.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's a good thing, because it reminds me how important, especially for the elderly, they're having trouble hanging on to their homes. So, that's really clear to me. But somebody did approach me this morning and said, I'm here paying my tax bill, and it was over, just so you know, it was over $10,000. It was a very nice home, and he said he was trying to get it in by the end of the year.
Yeah, Joe.
I've spoken to several accountants, including my own, obviously, a finance director. You can pay legally. You can pay, your third and fourth quarter, which is in January, and of course again in April. but people want to pay the 2018-19, but
don't even know those numbers yet.
Well, and you don't know the numbers. Number one, number two, if they do that and you take their money, and then they realize they can't deduct it, they're going to be banging on your door saying, "I want my money back." And let's be honest, you can't beat the federal government. They're worse than the mob. So they're going to get their money. No, they're going to get their money, and I understand that they're going to close that loophole. And as I said, I'm telling people you can. So we've had several people come in want to pay 18, 19. I said the bill's not out yet. You can pay your 16, 17 in full, which means you pay. Obviously, got to pay January. You can do it now, and you can pay the April, which you can deduct those quarters. So people seem to be doing that. But I explained to them the bill's not out yet, and legally and technically you can't. I mean, what are you going to collect money for a bill? What happens if the tax rate drops? Or it goes up. Now you got to chase them for the money. But most importantly, I don't blame them if they can't deduct it and they've paid you, say, $8,000 for the 18-19 tax season. They're going to want their money back, and that's a logistical nightmare for the ladies who work for me because they do a great job. My employees, I love my employees, police, fire. They do as well as the municipal employees. They do a great job.
Sewer department. Don't forget.
We don't have a sewer department.
don't?
No, you're looking at the sewer commissioner, so.
Oh.
And I do a decent job, so. But seriously, we've had some people come in, but they have to realize they can pay the third and fourth quarter.
Yeah, so you're going to let them pay the
Oh,
last
absolutely.
year's fiscal year, but not
Absolutely.
going forward because you have
can't.
complications and what happens there.
The computers, those darn computers, they won't accept it anyway. Now you can't go by handwritten stuff.
Well, I think that, again, we've talked about how the detail that mayors, administrators, mayors, elected top execs of communities go through, and that's why you become a jack of all trades, right? I mean, you learn an awful lot about a number of things.
Governance a lot different than I was in the General Assembly for 12 years.
Yes.
At first I was 1 out of 50, then I was 1 out of 38. Now all of us sitting here at your table, we're 1 out of 1.
Yes. So let's talk about that a little bit. So we got maybe 5 minutes, but I wanted to talk about regionalization and strategies on regionalization. Joe, I'll start with you, Joe, but as you know, we had town councils pass resolutions a few years back saying, please give us a look at whether we want to regionalize public safety dispatching.
Absolutely.
You had quite a quote at the press conference, but it appears as though we are coming back. So how do we represent the people that elected you and the taxpayers in your community in the most efficient way when it's very difficult to get the General Assembly to give blessings on these things that will help save dollars? We're going to do the same. We're going to come back with a new tax revaluation strategy that we've been working on multiple communities along with RIPEC and others. But how do we, your experience, how do we get that done? Because there's dollars to be saved through regionalization if we could actually do it.
Yeah, I think what we need to do, first of all, obviously, the unions are concerned about losing jobs. That's not going to happen. They'll probably end up gaining positions. It's all about consolidation and buying equipment. So I think we're going to have to sit down with the unions, get them on board, because they end up obviously going, and listen, they work, they do their job for their representatives, they do it very well. But I think we've got to get the unions on board. We get obviously the General Assembly on board. We're ready to go as elected leaders and say this is the way to go. This is how we're going to save money. And it's not about getting rid of people. It's not about that. It's about, as I said before, it's about consolidating, having better service for the people we represent, and most importantly, well, that's really important, but also saving money. So I think we have to get at the table, tell the General Assembly we're serious about this. Please don't send us out like we've been coming back and forth. And I'll say it before you became the Lieutenant Governor, we had a seat outside the State House. Now we got a seat at the table, thanks to you, and we appreciate that.
Well,
really.
Anything that we can do.
I'm serious.
I still have the mayor's hat on, and we have that hat rack in our office that that you can hang your hat on as we promised. But but also I would like to see more. I know that physically, I know there's animal shelters being merged. There's
absolutely
there's things that were under our control are being done. I know North Smithfield has done something with Burrillville, with Mike Wood up there, and I'm sure Bristol is doing the same. But after you go through that test of doing those things under your control, we need help from the General Assembly to do other things. So we've got to figure that out. We got another minute to go. Steve, do you have any comment that you want to make in 20 seconds or less?
Yes, 20 seconds. It's been a great year, great experience. I think the world needs good policemen, and the world needs good elected officials, and that's what I like to close out
public safety, good schools, and a strong fiscal municipality can do an awful lot of things for our communities. Gary.
I want to say thank you for the opportunity
Yes.
to be here to talk with these fine gentlemen. And, you know, we need efficient and effective government. That's been my message for over a year, and I keep working at that. And I think that's what we're all talking about.
Yeah. Well, let's keep on
Well said.
comparing notes. I just want to thank the audience out there, people who watched today's show. If it wasn't about your community, these are the type of things that are happening in your community, the things that you need to be aware of. So thanks for joining Advance Rhode Island. My name's Dan McKee, the Lieutenant Governor of Rhode Island, and we want to make our state the place where people can live and raise their families and make sure that our economy is strong enough to do both. So thank you so much for joining us. Thanks, guys.